The Emmys are stupid, which is why everybody wastes hours and hours and days and weeks analyzing who might win, arguing about who did get nominated and who didn't get nominated, and basically just wasting a ton of time thinking about it because they don't matter. So I'm going to go ahead and weigh in on this for what my opinion's worth. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I put out videos on a weekly basis, and I'd really appreciate if you join me as I discuss movies, shows, and books and other entertainment. And if you'd give me a like, I'd really appreciate it. So let's talk about the Emmy nominations. So I'm going to start with Best Comedy, which Curb Your Enthusiasm, Dead to Me, The Good Place, Insecure, The Kominsky Method, The Marvelous, Mrs. Maisel, Schitt's Creek, What We Do in the Shadows. Not anything terribly interesting or surprising here, in my opinion. I don't really care about this category, with the exception of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Last year, Fleabag was a surprise winner, but I think given that show is not in the running anymore, the only show that I really think should get awards is The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. A lot of these other shows are fine, but they're not exceptional in the way that I would say that show is personally. So I just kind of hope that show takes the award in most categories that it's nominated for. Best Drama, Better Call Saul, which had its best season yet, in my opinion. But again, this show hasn't really won yet, and it's kind of old news. The Emmys like to give awards to shows that are new news. The Crown, which again had a weaker season, but this is a show that's just kind of become a traditional show to nominate for the Emmys. The Handmaid's Tale, Killing Eve, The Mandalorian, which is I think a surprise for many, Ozark, Stranger Things, and Succession. I hope that Succession takes this. I think that these are all decent nominations. For the most part, I did agree with the nominees this year. There were some nominees where I felt like there might have been political reasons for nominating them, but I'm not going to single anyone in particular out because I think that would be unfair. But I don't really think that The Mandalorian deserves this nomination personally. I didn't personally care for that show very much. I know this is like poking the internet in the eye to say this because I know a lot of people really like it. And in that sense, I can understand why they nominated it, because I'm sure a lot of the voters themselves liked it. Disney is a powerful machine, and it is nice to see them nominating something popular as opposed to something that's snooty and not a lot of people saw. So I like these nominations. As I said, I would definitely like to see Succession get it. For me, Succession is the best show on television that's currently airing. So I would like to see it win. The second season was a marvelous season, brilliantly written. If you haven't watched it yet, you owe it to yourself to check it out and give it a chance. It might not immediately appeal to you, but if you give it a chance, I think that you will come to enjoy it. Best Limited Series, Little Fires Everywhere, which I reviewed on this channel, Mrs. America, which I also reviewed on this channel, Unbelievable, Unorthodox, and Watchmen. Of these, I tend to think it's easily going to go to Watchmen, so it's not that much of a discussion to be had on this. Of these options, I have not seen Unorthodox or Unbelievable. I'll probably check them out before the actual awards ceremony because I like to know what the nominees are like. I tend to think personally I would like to see Mrs. America win. I thought that was a very good show. I know that a lot of people really liked Watchmen. I personally did not. I felt it was mediocre at best. I feel that it was very, very timely, and I think that has kind of clouded the discussion because a lot of the people that hated on it for reasons that were not relevant to the quality of the show. I don't think you should hate a show for its political message any more than you should love a show for its political message. And I feel like that's kind of made the discussion around Watchmen really difficult, is that a bunch of people hate it because they see it as being woke, which it's really not if you're paying attention. It's actually quite down the middle of the aisle. But A lot of people also just really love it for what they perceive to be its political messages. And to me, that's just as silly. I think that you should accept something as a piece of entertainment or a piece of, filmmaking or showmaking, as it were. And to me, this show just wasn't all that. But moving on, Best Actress Comedy. Nothing too surprising here. Linda Cardinelli in Dead to Me is the big surprise, but of course, as a Marvelous Mrs. Maisel fan, I would really prefer to see her take this award. Best Actor Comedy, again, nothing particularly surprising. I would like to see Rami Youssef get this award for Rami on Hulu. I think that's a great show. But these are all pretty worthy nominees. Going into the Best Actress Drama category, I'm super happy to see Jennifer Aniston get nominated for The Morning Show. I know that a lot of people probably don't think she was doing all that much acting in this show, but she was just delightful in my opinion, and I really enjoyed the show, and I'm looking forward to the second season. Olivia Colman, The Crown, she's just a treasure as an actress, especially when you realize all the range she has, that she can appear in something like Fleabag and just be so hilarious and then turn and do this very, very dignified, buttoned-up period drama that is The Crown. She's won a lot of awards. She's won Oscars. She's won Golden Globes for The Night Manager. So obviously, if she wins again, it's a little bit, who cares? But still nice to see her get nominated. Obviously, we've got Killing Eve's Jodie Comer and Sandra Oh. Of these two, I think Jodie Comer is the one who's really making the show work. But I've kind of gotten tired of the show, and I almost don't feel like these actresses need to get nominated anymore because they're just not doing that much that's interesting. So to me, I could stand to not see these two nominated. Laura Linney for Ozark, very, very good performance, but I'm not her biggest advocate, but very good performance. Zendaya is the biggest surprise here, I would argue, for Euphoria, and this is kind of like the Catherine Langford nomination for 13 Reasons Why, in my opinion, where I don't think she's a serious threat in the category because I tend to think that they're just dominating her because they want to have a diverse category, both in terms of age and in terms of race. But I tend to think that she's very, very deserving, having seen the show. But I think they'll probably not give her the award just because they'll say it was a big thing that you even got nominated, given that you weren't really in the discussion that much for a lot of people. So this one, it's really hard to say who would win. I would tend to say it will be Olivia Colman. It's kind of a crying shame that Elizabeth Moss for The Handmaid's Tale was excluded. You can't tell me she didn't give one of the 3 best performances in a series in the last year. I think that's just a dreadful oversight to exclude her. And also Rhea Zahorn from Better Call Saul. I really think she should have cracked this category. But it's tricky because who would I take off the roster? Who would I take off this list to include those two? I really couldn't say. It's just a challenge when I think that these actresses were definitely deserving and they're not in the running. But there's always people like that. Best Actor Drama. I find it surprising that Steve Carell is in this category for The Morning Show. I feel like he should be in the supporting category. But there were 2 other actors from The Morning Show in that category. So he was really good in Morning Show, but I think he's easily the one in this category who I would probably not mind seeing pushed out. Because while he was good, it's not anything that's new ground for him. And it's just, every time you watch Steve Carell, it's shades of Michael Scott, even in his more serious roles. And I'm sure he would hate to hear that, but it's just the truth. Jason Bateman, good performance this year in Ozark, very deserving of this nomination. But again, this show's been ongoing for a while. Not terribly excited to see him get nominated again. I'm sure a lot of people who didn't even watch the 3rd season probably voted for him. I'm much more excited to see his work in The Outsider recognized, as he got a best, I'll get to that in a bit, but I think that performance was interesting because it shows how someone who's in a show for a very, very limited period of time can have a huge impact and just have a lingering presence. Sterling K. Brown is a marvelous actor. I would love to see him win an Oscar at some point. His performance in Waves recently was just excellent. But This Is Us, he's really not breaking new ground either, and I think this is more of a legacy nomination. Brian Cox in Succession, great performance, just won, got awards recognition, won awards last year. So I think he'll probably be the one who ultimately wins in this category, but I'm a little not that interested. He's a very sweet man, very grateful man for these wins, but I'm not sure I would like to see him win. Obviously, Billy Porter could win for Pose because a lot of people really have enjoyed and expressed excitement about his performance in that show, and he has won awards for it in the past, but I'm personally just not that interested in seeing him win this award. I really, really want the award to go to Jeremy Strong for Succession because he had to pull off this really, really challenging character arc, the best character arc in television in the last year, in my opinion, and the show would not be all that it is without his performance, and it's a really unique performance, and I think it would be easy to overlook it, but I think that he should be the winner if I were the one to decide. I do think it's a little bit of a bummer that Bob Obendirk for Better Call Saul was excluded from this category. I think he was very, very deserving in the best season of the show yet. Again, he's kind of an old news candidate. Everybody knows he's a good actor, but I feel like he deserved to win for that show at some point. But hopefully they catch him in the final season, similarly to how they got Matthew Rhys in the final season of The Americans. Best Actress, Limited Series, or TV Movie. I think Cate Blanchett should get this. Her work in Mrs. America is very nuanced. The most nuanced performance in this category, in my opinion. I have not seen Unorthodox yet. I intend to watch it, but I've heard that Shira Haas, I believe that's how you say her name, who knows. I've heard very good things about her, so possibly an underdog nominee, and I'm sure she's very deserving. Regina King has won a lot of awards, but I personally was not overwhelmed by her performance in Watchmen. I tend to think she's going to win again, but I don't necessarily think she should, even though she's obviously a very talented individual. Octavia Spencer for Self-Made, very happy for her. I think she's just a wonderful person and a wonderful actress. I've not seen this show, but I'm sure she's doing her typically great work. Kerry Washington, Little Fires Everywhere. I find this nomination extremely odd. If only because, like, with Regina King, even though I personally did not think that highly of Watchmen, did not think that highly of her performance in that show, I understand it because people gushed about it. People genuinely loved it. There was a lot of buzz for it. But for Kerry Washington and Little Fires Everywhere, I'm pretty sure everyone who watched that show everyone I've talked to, even, people that I would think would be predisposed to like her performance, didn't like it. They found her grating and hard to watch. So I'm really kind of surprised to see her get this nomination when I feel like, and this is just what the people in my circle and the people that I've conversed with on the internet have expressed, so obviously there's a little bit of a bubble there, but the people I've talked to felt that her performance was not that good and kind of grating, actually. So I'm a little bit surprised to see her get nominated for that. Best Actor, Limited Series or TV Movie, Jeremy Irons, Watchmen. Love him as an actor. Didn't really care for his performance in Watchmen. Hugh Jackman, Bad Education. Obviously, this is kind of, I feel like, more of a recognition of Hugh Jackman than a recognition of his particular performance in Bad Education. But I've heard good things about Bad Education. I haven't actually seen it. I feel like most people probably haven't seen it. Paul Mescal, Normal People, kind of a cool nomination. Very good show, and it really, really works in particular because of the performances of its two leads. I would say Paul Mescal was the lesser of the two leads, personally. I feel like Daisy Edgar Wright, I believe her name is, should have gotten nominated over him, but it's good to see the show getting any recognition. It's a very, very good show. Check it out if you enjoy that kind of romance drama. It's very intimate, very personal. I reviewed it when I had only watched the first 6 or so episodes, and watching the whole series, I feel like, helped me to understand and contextualize some of the things I had criticized in my previous review. So keep that in mind if you watch my review and are like, now wait a second, you didn't seem that fond of this when you reviewed it. Jeremy Pope, Hollywood. Hollywood I had a lot of problems with, and Jeremy Pope was not a problem per se, but I definitely didn't think he was a standout performance personally, but apparently a lot of people did, so good for him getting this nomination. Mark Ruffalo, and I know this much is true, this should win it, personally. It might go to Jeremy Irons for Watchmen, but if I was picking the winners, I would say it should go to Mark Ruffalo. His performance was astounding. Just a tour de force, playing these twins. And what was so marvelous about it is that when I'm watching most miniseries or shows with twins, with dual performances, I'm constantly aware of it. But here, his work was so understated and so nuanced. I was almost never aware that he was playing both characters. So bravo to him. Hope he wins. I'm a little bummed to see Defending Jacob not getting recognition in any of these categories. I think it was very, very deserving, but I feel there's a little bit of a bias against Apple TV shows. Supporting actress comedy. Don't have strong opinions about this one. I guess I would just say Alex Bornstein for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, because Marvelous Mrs. Maisel should win everything. Supporting actor comedy. I would actually like to see this go to Tony Shalhoub, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, again, but I could see it going to Mahershala Ali for Rami because he did a very good job, and he's just such a great actor. Just he can play any role. I could also see this going to Sterling K. Brown for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, but I'm kind of surprised to see him in this category because it was less of a supporting actor performance than a guest performance. But supporting actress drama, I could see this going to Helena Bonham Carter for The Crown. Her work was good, but I'm really not terribly, I guess it wasn't a standout performance to me personally. Laura Dern was just a powerhouse in Big Little Lies, but the second season was just not all that good and kind of completely unnecessary. Julia Garner for Ozark would be very deserving. Danny Newton for Westworld would be very deserving. So would Sarah Snook from Succession, Fiona Shaw from Killing Eve, and Meryl Streep in Big Little Lies. So this is honestly a really stacked category. Any of these actresses I would not quibble with if they were given the award. And Samara Wiley for The Handmaid's Tale. I'm going to take that back. I'm not entirely convinced that she would be deserving if she won. I feel like she's kind of getting residual positive feedback from people for her performance in Orange is the New Black, but I don't think she's particularly marvelous in The Handmaid's Tale. Supporting actor drama. There's 3 actors from Succession in this category, all of whom are deserving. My wife loves Cousin Greg, so she would be delighted to see Nicholas Braun win. Matthew McFadden, she would also really be delighted to see win. My wife loves Succession as much as I do. So I would say those 2 would be my personal 2 favorites. Kieran Culkin is also very good in Succession, but I'm not as fond of his character or his performance. Billy Crudup in The Morning Show, everybody loved him that actually watched the show. I think he was just a very fun supporting character, as was Mark Duplass, also in The Morning Show. Giancarlo Esposito, Better Call Saul, this is such an iconic role for him, so it's no surprise to see him continuing to get nominated. Bradley Whitford, The Handmaid's Tale. Totally deserving. I pegged that he would get a nomination the minute I watched that season. I was like, man, this is a really good performance. He's going to get a nomination for sure. Jeffrey Wright, Westworld, obviously. Jeffrey Wright's a great actor. I don't think he did great acting this season, personally. I felt like he had very little to do. But, I love Jeffrey Wright, so I'm not going to quibble with this. Supporting actress, limited series, or a movie. Uzo Aduba, Mrs. America, very good performance as Shirley Chisholm. Toni Collette, unbelievable. Toni Collette is a great actress, so she probably deserves this. I haven't seen the show. Margot Martindale, Mrs. America, great performance, totally deserving. Jean Smart, Watchmen. You know how I feel about Watchmen, I've made it clear, but I'm just going to say, of the people in Watchmen to get nominated, I feel like she's the least deserving because her performance was actually downright bad in places, in my opinion. Some of it was not her fault. It was probably hard for her to say those lines. The dialogue was pretty pitiful, very exposition driven and try hard dialogue. And I know I'm going to get flack in the comments for this, but this is just my opinion for what it's worth. Just saying. Holland Taylor, Hollywood, great performance, deserving, but I don't think she'll win. That show was just not anything special, in my opinion. Tracy Ullman, Mrs. America, least deserving of the Mrs. America actresses. So for me, in this category, I'd probably like to see it go to Uzo Aduba or Margot Martindale for Mrs. America, because I thought that that was a great show and they did a really good job in it. But again, pretty stacked category. Supporting actor, limited series, or movie. Tons of Watchmen actors. Louis Gossett Jr., Jovan Adepo, Yahya Abdul Mateen II. Of those actors, I'd like to see Yahya Abdul Mateen II. I thought he did a really good job, and it's hard to talk about his performance without spoiling Watchmen for people who haven't seen it, but I felt like given what he had to work with, it was a very challenging performance because I think in some ways it went against the nature of a certain character that he was playing. So I was still very impressed with his performance. Titus Burgess, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Kimmy versus the Reverend. I don't think he'll win, but, you know, I'm sure a lot of people were happy to see this nomination since I know he's a fan favorite. Dylan McDermott, Hollywood. I feel like this is one of those, we just nominate you because you're Dylan McDermott nominations. I don't think anyone was particularly fond of him. Jim Parsons in Hollywood actually would be completely deserving of this award if he were to win because he did a really great and entertaining performance, but I had a lot of problems with it because he was playing a Harvey Weinstein-esque figure that was made too likable by the quipping of Jim Parsons, who was just such a riot in this role. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag for me. So there's a lot of other nominated categories I could go into, but those are the biggest ones. Overall, I think that these were good nominations. I do think there was a little bit of you see them nominating people because they're names that they recognize and nominating shows because it's a show that they've nominated in the past, as opposed to nominating it because it actually had a standout season. You also see a little bit of them trying to make sure the categories are more inclusive. I think sometimes it's easy to just get stuck in a rut picking people that resemble a certain type of actor. So it was good for them to branch out and think outside their, normal window to bring some of these actors in. But some of them I feel like maybe weren't deserving and got brought in because they were trying to be inclusive. I know that's going to offend some of you for me to say, but I think it's just true. So those are my thoughts on these nominations. But let me know what you thought in the comments. Let me know if you think that there were any snubs. Let me know if you hate me for not liking Watchmen. Let me know what you're most excited to see win or what you're hoping to see not win. So if you're interested in seeing more reviews and reactions on this channel, please consider subscribing. And as always, you can watch more videos right now.